Now, in the wake of Donald Trump's upset victory over Hillary Clinton, Republicans are, of course, they're rejoicing. While a lot of establishment Democrats are literally weeping in the streets or protesting. How could Hillary Clinton lose? How could she lose? Well, earlier last week on the show, I detailed my thoughts on why she lost. So I'm not going to completely revisit that because I've already said a lot of what I need to say. Now, Republicans are claiming that with this win, the American people have spoken, and they want Republican policies. They want more trickle-down economics. They want less regulations on Wall Street, and that's what we're going to give them, goddammit. Well, that's not entirely true. You see, it turns out Donald Trump doesn't have a mandate. The Republicans don't have a mandate because Donald Trump lost the popular vote.
Ding, ding, ding.
Exactly. The New York Times reported that based on election data, Donald Trump had a roughly, 60.27 million votes to Clinton's 60.84 million votes. And CNN is reporting that on Election Day, the turnout may have been the lowest in 20 years. Now, there's a reason for that. I'll get to that a little bit later on. Now, according to CNN's Gregory Wallace and Robert Yoon, they wrote, while election officials are still tabulating ballots, the 126 million votes already counted means about 55% of voting-age citizens cast ballots this year. That measure of turnout is the lowest in a presidential election since 1996, when 53.5% of voting-age citizens turned out. It would take another 18.7 million votes to reach the high point for turnout of 2008, when nearly 64% of voting-age citizens cast a ballot. Now, already, look, low turnout is a disaster. Because, look, as we've noted before, Ron, when people show up and they vote, and their vote is counted, well, Democrats usually win. When they don't, when there's when there's really low voter turnout, or there's a lot of voter suppression, well, here comes Republicans. Now, look, I understand that in the case of Hillary Clinton, people were not exactly excited, right? You and I, Ron, we were not excited. You in the audience, you were likely not excited by Hillary Clinton. Yay, status quo! No, you weren't excited by that. Nobody was.
Well, the best part, too, Jeff, is when the phrase unpopularity contest has been used a lot for the election. And now we can say that it was literally an unpopularity contest.
Right.
Because not only were there two grossly unpopular candidates, but the least popular candidate, meaning the person that got the least votes of the two, still won.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, that's the thing. She won the popular vote, but she lost the Electoral College. Now, interestingly enough, in the battleground states of Florida, North Carolina, and Michigan, they saw increased voter turnout, according to CNN. Now, especially, look, you got to factor in that there was a resurgence of white working class people that did help to fuel Donald Trump's campaign. You had a lot of uneducated people that voted for Trump. You even had some educated people that also voted for Trump. You had some more minorities. In fact, Donald Trump won more of the Latino vote than Mitt Romney did. So that's interesting. And women, they didn't show up as much for Clinton, but they showed up for Trump. Now,
yeah, he got it was 52% of white women, I think.
Yeah, so it's a lot more than he was expecting, I think. So, but what's interesting, according to election data, black ballots, however, were not as counted. They actually significantly decreased by more than 11% when compared to black voter performance in the previous 2012 election cycle. So African American turnout was depressed. Interesting. Now, I wonder, Ron, what it is that could depress the black vote. Could it be voter suppression? So, yeah, so some viewers alerted me to some investigative reporting by Greg Palast, right? Now, he talked about a system called Crosscheck that was created by Republican voters. Basically, Crosscheck, the GOP claims that it's going to fight voter fraud by making sure people don't vote twice, right? Or multiple times. Now, this is a very, very, very simple breakdown, right? So there's a lot of moving parts in cross-check, but basically they made lists of people with similar names that they think could be registered in multiple states and therefore vote multiple times in an election. I know it sounds weird, right? Now, what they do with those lists, they go through and they just, once they're on these lists, they can purge all the voters. You're gone. Oh, you have a similar name to somebody who might not be registered in this particular place. You're gone. And as I said, incredibly simple breakdown. Okay, so they purge million. They purged about 1 million voters from this election cycle, as far as I can tell, using the cross-check system. So now they did this in places where it would matter. For example, Michigan. Donald Trump won the state by about 13,000 votes. Right? Cross-check purged over 400,000 voters from the Michigan voter rolls. Now, look, some of you might be asking, okay, but look, how would that have helped Hillary Clinton? Well, it turns out that most of the people purged ended up being minorities, students, and other people who primarily vote Democratic.
Yeah, this is nothing more than voter suppression, because whenever you hear the voter fraud narrative being parroted, voter fraud hardly ever happens. It's pretty much make-believe. It is essentially make-believe. It's not something. It is so grossly uncommon. You know what isn't uncommon? Election fraud. And you know what's part of election fraud? Voter suppression. And that's exactly what this is.
Exactly. Now, that doesn't mean that all those 400,000 people who were purged were going to vote, or that they were going to vote for Hillary Clinton, right? That's not to say that that would have happened. As we've seen, people, look, there were people who voted for Obama in 2012, or counties that went for Obama in 2012, that flipped over to vote for Trump this time. Okay? And there's the possibility that these people also could have just stayed home. Still, it's entirely possible that the Republicans stole this election.
Well, gee.
Yeah.
That's the first time they ever did anything like that.
I know, right?
That's never happened before.
2000.
Well, let's talk too. I mean, one thing I wanted to bring up, this is, and we've mentioned this on the show before. I don't want to rehash too much, but this is the second time in 20 years the candidate that won the popular vote is not sitting in the White House, or not going to be sitting in the White House. And the Electoral College, you talk about low voter turnout. The Electoral College, I know a lot of people, they're Democrats, they live in red states, so they never go out and vote. They feel like there's no point. They feel like they have nothing to gain from it. And, just to be totally fair here, and to be straight up, I know Republicans in California. I live in California. I know Republicans in this state that never go out and vote because of the other way. They feel that their vote never matters. California's a blue state. Nobody should feel that way, regardless of their political ideology. Nobody should ever feel that way. And if you eliminated the Electoral College, nobody would feel that way, because it would be one person, one vote. So I think just that alone, would really up the voter turnout. And I think that's an important thing to point out here. I mean, a lot of the states you mentioned where they did get out the vote, those are states where it really mattered. Florida, North Carolina, those were states where it could really be one way or the other. So I think people were motivated. I think that's a factor.
Yeah, and look, this doesn't counter my thoughts on Hillary Clinton being a weak candidate as well. Don't get me wrong on this.
Fully agree.
I'm not saying that it was all voter suppression, that, that's what it is, and that people were just really enthusiastic to go out and vote for Hillary Clinton. No, of course not, right? Look, maybe if all the votes had been counted, though, she wouldn't have lost the Electoral College. She would have maybe won Michigan by a very, very small amount, razor thin, as some of the polls had suggested, as some of the polls were indicating before. Now, I'm also not saying that it's not Hillary Clinton's fault that she lost. I still blame her for being a terrible candidate. I still blame the DNC.
I mean, look at some of the states she needed, Jeff. Wisconsin, she didn't even go there.
Exactly. She didn't go to Wisconsin. And that was a must-needed state. She didn't feel like the people in Wisconsin were important enough to go and campaign there. Oh, yeah, fuck them. We're going to go somewhere else. Well, then you're
Yes.
not going to get their votes, but you needed their votes. So Hillary Clinton did not do reach out. And I totally
not
understand
at all.
that.
She didn't reach out to progressives.
No.
She didn't reach out to Obama, and she didn't reach out to the working people in swing states. And she needed
Exactly.
all three of those things.
Like I said, voter suppression aside, those are her mistakes. And she could have gotten enough votes to overcome the suppression if she had done the reach out, if she had actually tried. And what she did instead was she tried to reach out to Republicans disaffected with Trump and to get Trump donors, Republican donors. So, or not Trump donors, George Bush donors. So, look, that hurt her, right? And
yeah, it hurt her. I mean, I think it also probably further disenfranchised a few folks. You know, I mean, when she was having these, Iraq war profiteers that you hope were like had gone into the woodwork and aren't going to come back out again, and all of a sudden they're coming out for her. It's like, that's not very encouraging,
right,
to some of the base that she really needed to mobilize.
Yeah. John Negroponte, are you fucking serious? Henry Kissinger, are you fucking serious? Those people, embracing those people who are war criminals, that's not going to do well for progressives. That's not going to get these other people motivated to come and to turn out for you, especially in places that are must win. And look, it gets me to the Rust Belt states, where we feel like, I live in a Rust Belt state. Okay, I live in a place that was very, very hurt by NAFTA and the loss of manufacturing. Okay, I worked in that sector. I was there. I saw the job losses. I lost my job. Okay, I've had family that have lost their jobs thanks to factories picking up shop and moving over to Mexico because of free trade deals. So she didn't reach out to us at all in that. And for Flint, she talked about Flint while she was here. And then we never heard anything about the Flint water crisis again. And she hid for 2 months from the media. So look, pointing out that there was actual voter suppression is not taking away from the criticisms that we've had from the Democratic Party, the DNC, the corruption, the screwing over of Bernie Sanders. If Bernie Sanders had run on the Democratic ticket, he would have also faced voter suppression. But that's very likely, I think, at least in my opinion, that he would have had enough people supporting him that he could win by a large enough margin to negate that voter suppression that we had, that the GOP had set up by controlling so many governorships and state legislatures across the United States. So look, if you think that voter suppression, if you don't think it added to one of the reasons why Hillary Clinton lost, then I think you're ignoring the GOP and their willingness to cheat in order to win an election. Just like how the DNC did it to Bernie Sanders. If you believe that the DNC cheated and screwed over Bernie Sanders, why is it so hard to believe that the Republican Party would do the same thing? Hell, that's probably where the DNC learned it from. So,
fair point.
Now, look, remember the words of Paul Ryrick, right? We don't want more people to vote. If less people vote, our chances of winning go up. And look, we had a record low turnout, and look who won. Republicans. They took the entire government.
Yeah, and the last time they did that, a year later, the Great Depression happened.
Fun fact.
Fun fact for you. Last time it was House, Senate, and President. That's what happened. But you know what happened 4 years later, though? You got a New Deal guy in the White House.
Well,
so
let's hope.
maybe we'll get a New Deal guy in the White House in 2020.
Actually, let's not hope. Let's fight for it.
Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Now,
yes, we can. Has anyone ever used that before? That's a good slogan.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think it's a good slogan, but I don't remember. I don't know if anybody used it before.
I
maybe. I don't know. But look, still, getting back to the original point, that even while losing the popular vote and disenfranchising at least 1 million people, the Republicans will still claim that they've got a mandate. Well, guess what? You can't have a mandate if more people voted against you. That's not how this thing works. Okay? Look, Hillary Clinton, if she won the Electoral College and still won by the small margin that that the polls were suggesting that she would win by, she would also have not had a mandate. Interestingly enough. So it cuts both ways. It's fair on both sides. The last president to really have a mandate was Barack Obama. He won by about 5 million more votes than Mitt Romney and overwhelmingly won the Electoral College. So there's that. And yet, the Republicans were like, no, there is no mandate. What are you talking about, mandate? No, we're going to push our positions and force Obama to do them. And sadly enough, on some issues, Obama was more than happy to reach out and compromise. Instead of using the bully pulpit to say, no, bitch, I got a mandate. The American people elected me for hope and change, and I'm going to give them some hope and fucking change.
Yeah, I mean, that's why when people, because people were hoping for a Hillary Clinton mandate, and then it's like, you know, if Obama wasn't able to, you know, use that in 2008 and 2012, it's certainly not going to happen now. And obviously it didn't happen, and she didn't even win the election. Right. So,
yeah. So, look, you know, if you think that the next time a Democratic president wins, even by a large margin, that the Republicans are going to see that as a mandate, no, there's no way. No. And look, and if you think that the Republicans, now that they've won, are going to reach out to Democrats the same way the Democrats reached out to them when they had President Obama and won the majority of seats in the House and the Senate, no, it's not going to happen. No, what the Republicans are planning to do is they're going to run roughshod over us. More tax cuts for the rich, more deregulation, more coal, more oil, more entitlement cuts. Here we come. It's time to stop being nice. It's time to, not literally, but we need to figuratively punch them in the face by fighting back against their policy priorities. You want to call us children for fighting back? Well, look, the American people, for one, didn't elect you. The majority voted for Hillary Clinton, okay? And there was huge voter suppression. We know that already. And
people need to keep that in mind, and they need to keep that anger in their bellies up until the midterms.
Exactly, 2018 which is the time that we strike back. You want to go and you want to protest, you know, in Washington D.C. and in Chicago, wherever. You want to protest in San Francisco, great. But you know what you should do after that? 2018, you should go out and vote. You should vote for progressives. If you're one of the people that are holding up the sign, "Pussy grabs back," well, okay, great.
Grab back.
You should grab back in 2018.
Yeah,
that's our next opportunity.
Well, not just that, but, you know, I really do feel this way. I mean, at first I was a little on the fence about it, but it is the most important election of our lifetimes. 2018.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with that. And I'm just going to add midterms matter. Remember this.
There you go.
Midterms matter. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation.